Hello and welcome back to another episode of Metagame Show Host. That is Meta, M-E-T-A, game show host, not met a game show host, but I hopefully will someday. Joining me this week is going to be a good friend and fellow podcast runner, Zach Ruckman.
What's going on,
or
Ricky?
Crew 3 Ruckman, or the Ruckman, or Z-Dog, if you're nasty. So, Ruckman, how's it going?
What's going good? The question though, Ricky, are you betraying me or am I betraying you?
I believe, as we're going to find out soon, everyone is betraying everyone. And you should trust literally nobody in this entire game.
Including the producers, because wow, does this game mess with you.
Especially the producers. And God, the host's a dick. Jeez, I think there's 2 or 3 hosts.
There's 2 hosts. It starts with Anderson Cooper the first 2 seasons. Then I forget who hosts the celebrity seasons, and then John Kelly's is the host of season 5.
And they are so wonderful at just being like, well, that sucks for you, doesn't it? I'm going to go sit in this chair and drink margaritas. Which is honestly the best way to run your game show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some of our other game show hosts, they've got this respectable air to them. And, this great, oh, wow, look at Kirk Bogg. Look at Jeff from Survivor, right?
Yeah.
Wow, such men of mystery. And then it's just y'all have fun with this impossible task. I'm going to go watch YouTube on my phone.
I'm going to go sit outside a cafe, eating pastries, drinking coffee, while you call me on a cell phone.
Occasionally, I might sell you hints for $1,000 if you guys suck that bad. But the show we're talking about tonight is The Mole.
The Mole, a very, I feel like, often looked over because it's actually pretty short-lived, even though it had 5 seasons. Unfortunately, I think one of the reasons is the unfortunate timing of the second season, I believe, which was during 9/11, unfortunately. So that they had they preempted half of the season to the summer, and this reran the whole season. There's a 4-year gap between seasons 4 and 5, but I think I've heard rumors that they're casting for a season 6, or at least a spiritual successor show. But the show's excellent.
So yeah, the show is absolutely wonderful. I loved it watching the show. I will say that also the show ran from 2001 to 2004, and then came back for 2008.
Yeah.
I mean, that is prime Survivor Amazing Race time. And if you want to be and Big Brother time too, all of reality TV was starting at this time. And I don't think the show is bad at all. I think it just sort of got edged out by things like Big Brother, Survivor, and Amazing Race, which we've covered Survivor, and we'll probably get to covering Amazing Race and Big Brother at some point. Mm-hmm. But these reality-style game shows, of course, are much longer than the 30 minutes. They're going to be over multiple episodes with 1 winner per season, so the prizes are generally much larger. And, man, what is the prize, Ruckman?
Well, you can, at least it's season 5, you can win up to $500,000, but the earlier seasons, I think it's up to $1 million. And the fact that it is up to is, I think, one of the key things that makes this game very interesting.
In the celebrity editions, it's only up to $250,000.
And you know what, though? You look at these celebrities, they could have bumped it to $500,000. I think they could use the money.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's because in the celebrity editions, which is seasons 3 and 4, they only have 7 or 8 people playing.
Yeah, and honestly, I as much as I think the show is enjoyable with the celebrities, right? I do think that they kind of the celebrity style of it, I think, downplayed just how good the show could be. If that makes sense. I
enjoyed how short and sweet the first celebrity season was, but I will say it was sort of who?
Yeah.
And also, it was a little bit it's well, that person is literally an actress.
But watch season 4, the second celebrity season, to just watch the germ Dennis Rodman just get nasty.
Oh my God. But essentially, the concept of this show is we have normally 12 people show up to play a variety of games challenges. They're called games, right? Missions, right? And each mission or game that happens is going to be able to earn the pot money. This is not money won by any individual person. This is money that goes into the collective prize pool.
It starts at 0.
Right. So every week or every episode we get about 2 of those challenges, and then during those challenges you've been informed that one person playing this game is not an actual person playing this game.
They are in
fact hired and brought along with the producers, and they are the mole, El Mole,
El Topo,
as it gets said a bunch in the seasons where they go to Chile and Argentina.
Yeah.
But the mole is there to specifically try to sabotage the missions as much as possible and cause the least amount of money to be earned in every mission. That is the goal of the mole. Your goal is actually not technically to win more money in the challenges. Your goal is to actually figure out who the mole is and then keep that information to yourself, as you are going to be needing to answer questions about the mole at the end of each episode in what is known as the quiz.
But Ricky, it's okay, because to help you keep track of all this information, you have your handy-dandy journal.
You are given a handy-dandy journal, and let me tell you, the journal is the most important thing in the entire game. Each player is issued a journal.
In Season 5 when they burned them all?
Oh my gosh. That was so rude.
But anyway, what's the journal?
The journal is given to you at the beginning of your first day, and it is the only place you are allowed to keep notes. Any notes you keep must be kept in your journal, and you're encouraged to keep lots and lots and lots of notes. And that is important because there is a weekly quiz, and whoever does the worst on the quiz is the person who goes home.
So they
get executed.
So you're telling me, Ricky, this is a social reality game where it doesn't matter how much of a dirtbag I am to the other players because they have no control over if I get voted off or not?
Correct. There's no voting off, and the mole doesn't kill you. They don't pick who goes home.
Even though it's called the execution, you just get walked to a car. It is
called the execution.
Who knows what happens after they get in the car?
Right. I assume that they leave you in a field somewhere until it's time for the reunion.
Yeah.
Also, this show likes to leave people places.
Oh, it's so bad. Like, that's what we said. We said, like, this show, don't even trust the producers. This show is so rude.
Yeah, it is. It's supposed to upset you and infuriate you. All the challenges are made to be really hard or really unnerving in any possible way.
Well, the challenges do a good job of, like, they are naturally built to raise suspicion, even if you just suck at the challenge.
You are supposed to be paranoid, always. Oh, and the challenges love to split you up.
Mm-hmm.
They normally have to. And they like to create a lot of situations where one person has to be somewhere else away from the other 2 people to see.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just have to trust. It's a lot of trust, a lot of blindfolds, a lot of 2-person teams, a lot of things like that. Because there's always that sneaking suspicion of, hey, maybe this person fell down a hill and almost died and got on an ambulance because they want us all to lose.
Maybe this person got hypothermia and got taken away in an ambulance because they're the mole.
Right. Nah, couldn't be.
But why is this guy limping and can't run so much?
Yeah, this guy looks like he's built like an athlete. And after running for like a mile, he gives up. Must be the mole.
Must be the mole.
This guy thinks that a phonogram was invented before Robinson Crusoe. He must be the mole.
This person told me to go kill myself. They're not the mole.
They're not the mole. They're just rude. So the general flow of an episode is wake up, go and do a stupid challenge. Then there will be a second challenge later, a completely separate second challenge.
Mm-hmm.
The second challenge normally has some hidden aspect to it. Once again, to raise more suspicion, if you would like to skip the quiz, like immunity in Survivor, you can become exempt from the quiz if you do something to earn an exemption. Normally, earning exemptions is contradictory to the goal of the mission. if you want to win a free pass into the next episode, you will literally have to prevent the team from winning. Whether it be literally like your success means that everybody loses in a race, or like maybe you're supposed to carry a lot of very fragile items up a hill. But actually, one of those fragile items has the exemption ticket in it. So maybe instead of taking them all up the hill, we're just going to smash them all and take the ticket.
Yep. Or sometimes they're not that drastic. Sometimes they're literally just like, hey, would you give up $10,000 for this exemption?
Right. Sometimes, if you're the most hated piece of garbage on your team, and your team votes you as most hated piece of garbage ever, you win an exemption. Really, anything can happen, especially in the second challenge. There's always some extra catch to it. Sometimes you lose money because you were a jerk to some random dude.
Well, that's the thing, right? It only happened once or twice, but I really wish they would have leveraged into it in that it's either season 1 or 2. Just the producers just had an actor just come up and ask for help. I forget what the task was. And they told them no, they were busy. And they just got docked $5,000 for it.
Right.
So strategy number 1, help the random people out.
Right, because you're going to need them later when you don't have any of your clothes.
Yeah.
Also, literally never trust the producers ever. Because every challenge is normally like an extra difficult thing to do because like the producers were like, all right, everybody, get dressed up for spa and fancy dinner. There's no spa. Oh, there's a spa, but there's no fancy dinner for you.
Well, unless you can find clothes.
Right.
Because we took all your clothes to get dry cleaned.
Or like, who thinks, who whines the most? Oh, this person whines the most. Great. They're spending the entire night out on the beach.
Drinking wine with me. Ha
ha, laugh at them. That also means they can't go home and take the quiz, so they get to make it to the next episode for free. Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Everything is always an extra catch somewhere. So obviously we kind of picked, not really obviously, the people wouldn't know this, but we kind of sort of last minute, I don't like not super last minute pick the show, but like I only, unfortunately because of work, was able to watch one season. So I don't know if we ended up watching the same season. I only watched season 5, but I remember a lot of seasons 1 and 2 from just growing up and watching the show a lot because I thought the show was super cool because it had the best version of the play along at home mechanic, which was just like you got to take the quiz too. Right. But did you see the episode in season 5 where as they're like after taking the quiz, figuring out who gets executed, they're like, okay, but like if someone wants to go home for $20,000 right now, they can. They do that like once a season. Okay, I thought so. And then I do a bribe. Yeah, is after like a very it's normally really early, like week 3 or something like that, right? Because once again, all the questions on the quiz are about the mole. They're literally so like the quizzes. The first question is always, is the mole male or female? The first question is that, and the last question is always, who do you think is the mole? And then every question in between is like, what team were they on? Because they had to split up in like the 3 types of teams. What color pants are they wearing? Just like really specific. What's the number on the mole's journal? Yeah. Did the mole what did the mole do during the challenge? Mm-hmm. Like, in what order did the mole finish the challenge? Like, it's 10 questions, 20 at the end, all about things that happened in the game that week. At the very end, though, it's like a cumulative episode, right? Or cumulative everything about the mole at that point. Yeah. And usually the season 5, at least, the quiz I remember a lot was definitely a lot of like, all right, at the final lineup, like what position were they in line? Right. There's a lot of like, did the mole, like what did the mole eat at the dinner party? There's like, what is the number on the mole's journal? That's always a big one. How much money did they lose or how much money did they win for whatever challenge? Right. If there's like anything named, like if there's a rat, like one challenge was like, everybody picks a rat and then the rats run through the maze and whichever number your mouse stops at, that is the hotness of the chili pepper you have to eat for the challenge. Yeah. And so like you better believe it, what was the name of the mole's rat? Was a question.
But they also, I think, is interesting when we're talking about the quiz. I don't know how much into quiz strategy you want to get right now. One of the questions they always type to do is there's always a specific question of like, what was the most ridiculous thing to happen in that episode? Like in season 5, where the guy who couldn't walk, they just wheeled him around in the wheelbarrow just to bring stuff back in to collect with, right? And the question was just, did this person ride in the wheelbarrow? When the question very specifically targeting one person.
Right. Did the mole ride in the wheelbarrow?
Mm-hmm. But anyway, I just thought, I don't remember the other seasons, but I just love the season 5 when they offered the money. We kind of got off track from that to just leave. Right. They're like, okay, I'll take the money. All right. So now let's see who's going to still get eliminated.
Yeah. That was pretty dope. Yeah. Normally they just end it, they just take the bribe. It's also funny because you don't get executed on the title card, like in the opening, right? Because they always show everybody's face, but they just Survivor removes you once you've been eliminated from the montage. Mm-hmm. In this one, they just stamp a eradicated, or what is it?
Executed
over your face if you've been kicked out.
You're just dead.
But if you took the money, you get a bribed stamp on your face.
Yeah.
So everybody knows.
You're the rat.
That you just took the money and left. Which there's nothing wrong with, except there's definitely everything wrong with that. But, Mm-hmm. Essentially, the big thing with the show, in my opinion, is details, and it's all about the quiz.
All about the quiz. And one thing that's important here is, as we start talking strategy for the games, this is, a metagame show, right?
Right.
We have 2 strategies to talk about here. We have to talk about if you're the mole or if you're just a regular player.
I'm going to talk mostly about the player strategy. We are going to touch on mole strategy.
Sure.
But technically, the moles already made their money. They can earn, I think, they can earn more money by doing specific tasks that they're told to do. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I told you before we started recording, there is a book that was written by the mole from, I think, season 2. Just about their time on the show. And I think it's like a $5 ebook. So had I known earlier than this morning, I definitely would have bought it and just skimmed through it just to see a little more in-depth detail about were they at a separate auditioning process, how early they find out they're the mole, just the general ins and outs of being the mole. At the end of the show, you see because again, the people at home don't know who the mole is either until the end. So during the show, during all of the one-on-one camera interviews,
they have everybody record I am the mole and I am not the mole.
Yeah.
So they can insert those clips wherever they want to, right? They always have people I am not the mole. But it is ultimately a game.
But what I was trying to in the interviews, right, the mole is still, they play the mole's version, them as a regular player version, so you don't know at home. But then the final episode, which is a lot of the montage of what they sabotaged, you get to start seeing clips of they almost caught me here. I thought they would have caught me here and stuff like that. So
right. The last episode is always nice, the reunion episode, because once they reveal the mole, we get to see exactly every time the mole sabotaged something, which is always very, very, very funny. And sometimes when they didn't sabotage what they were supposed to.
Yep.
But essentially what happens here, in my opinion, with this game, is it's not a game about solving all the clever puzzles. We can talk about clever puzzles. The only puzzles we care to solve are the ones that get us to the next episode, because you only win the pot if you're the last person left, and you're only going to do that if you have all the details and know who the mole is. So I think this is a hidden information game more than anything.
Sure.
Where you are trying to figure out what information you do not have, and you leverage the information you do have to the best you can. And the biggest piece of information you have when playing the game is that you are not the mole.
You are not the mole. And you gotta form strong coalitions, because they're not alliances. They're coalitions.
Yes. You need to definitely, the biggest strat, a lot of people use it, and I think it's a good strat. Be abrasive.
Mm-hmm.
Make it look like you are sabotaging the game. the thing is, you don't have to be right every time the quiz comes along. You just can't be last. You cannot score the worst on the quiz. That's what gets you eliminated. So therefore, if people are answering your name instead of other names, then they are answering incorrectly because you are not the mole. This is the only piece of information you have. So if you can convince people you are the mole, then you can get further in the game. I think that's like number one is like you need to be doing something shady to convince people you are the mole.
But it's gotta be leveled though.
Huh?
It's got to be leveled because I think there is a point where you can be too abrasive.
You can be too abrasive, yes, to where it's like this person is obviously not the mole.
Yeah.
Right. The mole is almost always, in my opinion, from what I've seen, someone super unassuming.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Because I think the mole strat going in is just be nice or just naturally be yourself.
Right.
Don't play a character, just play you.
Right. And just be accidentally-ing the whole challenges all the time. It is quite impressive how many people are like full and ready to just be like, I'm the mole. Yeah. Like, look at me. I'm throwing this challenge. Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you to kill yourself, do all these awful things. Right. I think that's a little too far. I think that like you want to be lightly abrasive so people know your name. They need to know your name, right? If you're quiet in the background, they're not going to know your name or know to write it down. And just be shady enough. Give everybody enough reason to make them think that you are there to cause problems and make sure that the money is not added to
Don't ruin the big bucks because you still want a good pot at the end. But like, be eager enough to step up to like lose like 5K from the pot type of deal.
Right. Because once again, you're not the mole, so you have to win the pot money too.
Because another thing with this game is they are very meticulous on the rules of the mission.
Which is very good for us because an easy way to throw money down the trash is to intentionally break the rules. And the rules can literally just be like...
stop talking past this line or don't talk at all.
Right. Doing something like that. Like talking when you're not supposed to. Bringing up topics that are not allowed.
Another one was missions. Like signaling during like a guessing game.
Right. Anything that easily like just like this is against the rules. That's the best way to just throw some money down the drain. And you try to make it. You try to play it off. Of course, always like try to make people think that you are the mole. All the while you are looking, especially for people you upset, because we know the mole knows everything. Right? The mole wants us to lose, and the mole doesn't need us to win. And they're also
the mole maybe has extra info on the challenges too.
Right. The mole also is not stressed about the test, and they're going to act stressed because they have to, right? Because they're trying to blend in. But the mole is going to be once again acting like they're blending in. They're going to be very much not as stressed. They won't get off-tempered as much. So this is like the abrasive strategy is like people who will rage back at you, people who will fall for like your baits, your name calling, your general rudeness and meanness. Those people clearly are going to have something at stake in this game, and they're going to be just as confused as you, which is why they're going to react so like viscerally. So this sort of psychology approach of like being able to find out who's not the mole by seeing who bites onto you being the mole.
Another thing is when we're doing this deductive reasoning, right, of figuring out who the mole is, all the quizzes generally are very sort of, it's weird, right? Because it's very basic, easy to see information, but you just have to recall it all. So, it is usually things as simple as, again, what color pants are they wearing? So I think like you have to think about the top, let's say like 5 things I think to think about with every challenge that questions are being asked from. What was each person wearing? What teams were each people on? Exactly. And then usually it's like sort of what order were they standing in?
Yeah, normally it's just like what did they do at the end, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a very big thing they do with these challenges, and I guess we sort of failed to mention a little bit, is that every challenge they like normally have you divide up into teams, but they'll do that first by saying something like, let's make two teams, one team of people who cannot trust, and one team of people who trust too much.
Yes.
And so that is your team names. Your team names are now trust too much and can't trust. Or another one, I'm using season 5 examples.
Selfish or selfless.
Huh?
Selfish or selfless.
Selfish, selfless. Another one was like, we want a team of 2 people, or we want a team of 8 people who like to compete, and 2 people who feel like they would have an uphill battle to compete. Right? And so those things like that, those names are important to write down, and you need to be journaling whenever you can. Literally, if I were playing this game, each day I would be writing down everybody's name. I would write down every piece of information. Like you want colors of shirts and pants. You want what team they were on that day, and you want to rank in order of how they performed. Mm-hmm. There's some really crazy ones at the end, like insane ones. Like when you get down to less people, there are questions on the quiz that are like things that are going to be really, really hard to tell. Like there was one challenge in the Celebrity season 3 where the main gimmick was they had to find stuff that had black paint ink on it, blacklight ink, and hold it under a black light. But the only black light could be activated if 2 people sat on the switch. And then one person would have to go out to the black light and try to read it. Uh-huh. And one of the questions on the quiz that week was literally, how many times did the mole sit on the switch for the black light?
Pick C. It's C's more often than not.
And it was a bunch of times, right? Uh-huh. Which gets me into my second very big important thing that you need to do in this game, which is learning the quiz. Mm-hmm. Mostly learning, even if you don't know who the mole is, it's better not to hyper focus, especially early, on somebody as the mole. Because you could be wrong. And if you're wrong and you've answered correctly about that person, you have 0 right.
Because you never know how many you got right or wrong.
What you want to do is hedge bets. The first question is a very, very good crucible. Is the mole male or female? What is the odds? Do you have at that point in the game an even male to female ratio? Mm-hmm. If there are 8 men and 4 women left, then your best bet is to guess male. If it's a dead even split, male or female, you know your own gender and can remove yourself from the pool. Mm-hmm. So you want to pick the side of that coin that has the greater advantage number. That being said, also, lots of questions, because all the questions are multiple choice. Even if they're like a million choices, they do have multiple choice questions. None of them are write your own in. Mm-hmm. Even when there's 11 people playing, there is the who is the mole at the very end, and you're given, A through H of how many players there are. The
answer is there.
The answer is always on the page. Therefore, it's easy to eliminate some. When you're asked things like, did the mole's team get eliminated or disqualified for breaking the rules, right? Mm-hmm. And you see that 6 people were not disqualified, 4 people were. We can weigh those odds. In that situation, it'd actually be bad to go on the right side of it. But the point is that everything that breaks down or regroups, you can reestablish your odds while taking the test. If it's was the mole on this team or that team, sometimes the teams aren't split evenly, and you're always going to be on one of the teams. So you can, once again, just mathematically choose better answers on the test. In fact, it's better, in my opinion, for the first 4 or so tests to literally only use math to choose your answers.
I agree.
Just pick the best probability, aim for the biggest spread, and don't narrow in on one person yet. You'll figure out who the mole is through deduction later. Especially when people start falling, who are trying to convince you that they are the mole.
Mm-hmm. So here's a question I don't think is ever clarified. I know they get their journals in the quiz. Do you also get a writing utensil while you're in the quiz? Because if so, I would take notes on the quiz itself as well.
The pen is always attached to your journal.
Okay, so...
But the quiz itself is done through a laptop.
The only problem with that is, like, obviously the quiz is timed. So, not that you want to be the first done, but if there is a tie, time is a consideration there. I do think it is important to not only track your deductions through the day, but also track your quiz answers.
Right. Literally take notes on what you answered on the quiz?
Exactly.
Sure. You won't find out your ranking. You will either just be alive or not alive.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that is also a little bit important too. Once again, write down everything you can. It's a big journal. Take notes every day. Organize them. It's an open book test at the end of the day.
Yeah. Unless your season 5 and your journal gets lit on fire.
Literally the only time that happened.
Because Mark kept too good of notes.
Oh my god, yeah. Mark was keeping too good of a note. He was sleeping with his journal, and everybody needed to stop.
Everyone needed to they had to destroy it. Everyone was just too worried to have him with the journal. It was really like just Gollum with the ring there, just journal.
There is a lot to be learned just through the statistics of the quiz, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm, I agree. I think because, again, a lot of the hyper-focused questions, I think, are there to also throw you off.
Well, they just sort of like, for the hyper-focused questions, your answer is very quickly, it's like, do I believe this person is the mole?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just sort of like, who is your current frontrunner for mole? Always have a frontrunner for mole.
Yes.
Right? And just be like, make sure your answers don't conflict, right? If you're going to answer that Benjamin is the mole in the last question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a question that was like, do you think the mole was carried around in a wheelbarrow and that was Mark? And you said, like, don't say yes to Mark, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think generally, if you have no clue, you will start to suss out through your Sherlock investigation here if you just quickly go through the stats to keep yourself alive the first 4 rounds. From the first, like, I think, so watching the show, two of the 3 seasons I watched, I was able to peg the mole just by critically thinking a lot,
mm-hmm.
which is different because I'm not having to do the tests, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing, too, is it's like, obviously, we're watching the show. We have, like, the omnipresent vision. We're not there in the game because I'm sure, you know, mentally it's a different space when you're in the game as well.
Right,
but still.
For sure. But still, I was able to peg the mole. In the second season I watched, I was able to peg them like when it got down to 5
mm-hmm.
or 4 people, right? And then the second one, by episode 4, I knew. I was just like, it's got to be this person.
Well, season 5 was interesting because I think the mole was just too likable.
The mole was just too likable. And if you're sitting at home and not having to deal with the constant mommy-daddy bickering at the dinner table that is season 5, you can obviously be like, see that guy who keeps quiet and just smiles and is like everyone's friend?
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust that guy. But generally, if you're being belligerent and you're being obviously like, I'm not gonna help, I'm gonna sit out, right? When you're being like that, right? You're trying to convince people you're the mole, and that's trying too hard.
Mm-hmm. Again, I think, again, like we were saying, you want to lose the small money, but you still got to work hard and be clutch in the big portions of the money earning.
Right. So I do think that like it's easy to eliminate some of those people who get really loud and they try to convince you they're the mole really quickly. Because that's also our strategy. We're hopefully going to be a little more tactful.
Mm-hmm.
One guy I did see who had a great strategy, once again, season 5. His strategy was just the dinner before the test and only the dinner before the test to be the biggest piece of shit he could be.
Put them off their game right before when it matters. Put
them on tilt. Just calling people out left and right. Just like, you know, calling names. He was not a nice dude. I would not invite him over for dinner with my mother.
Probably not, no.
No. Probably a good guy. but like his game plan, and it's smart and it worked, and a lot of people got really mad. And the thing was, he even knew who the mole was.
He lost on time, right?
He lost on time. He made it to like the last 4, and one person was exempt. One person's the mole, and the other person also knew who the mole was, and he didn't finish the test fast enough by 4 seconds.
Yep.
He figured out who the mole was by around week 4 and decided to play backup for the mole.
Mm-hmm.
His idea, like, he wanted to make sure everybody was on any trail but the moles, because he had figured it out. So, like, he was bringing up literally anybody and everybody's garbage except for the moles. And that's, I think, brilliant. I honestly think his play was, like, the tightest in the entire season.
Yeah.
And in that season, I honestly think, and it's season 5, so, I'm not going to spoil it because I want you guys to watch it because it's all on YouTube. Please go watch the shows.
Yeah, the show is all on YouTube. That's another good thing about this.
Right.
And it's not like a Big Brother or Survivor where it's like 10 episodes for each season.
I think the mole handed the win to the other guy. Legitimately.
You think?
I think the mole really liked the guy who ended up winning.
The guy who ended up winning had a good story.
He did. But I think the mole liked him, or the producers liked him, because there's a couple of times in some challenges about trying to get some exemptions where I think that the mole gave up the exemptions to give to the other guy.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he was supposed to be the guy who won at the very end, the very last challenge. If you win it, instead of being exempt, because you can't be exempt from the last test, you can learn the mole's identity. So right before the 20-question cumulative exam on what you learned this season, you can win a test, and you are offered either a bunch of money for the pot or for sure know who the mole is. And
then it just comes down to how good your notes are. Because again, the final test questions are, again, you have the lineup of like 12 people. Where was the mole in that line? And then you also have to remember the order that people got executed in.
I will say, because the celebrity seasons are so short, they've removed the dossier.
Oh, okay.
For good reason. The seasons are so short, the winner literally comes down to who picked the mole.
Gotcha. Okay.
It is too difficult for them to have determined the mole in only 5 episodes. Because there's like 8 of them. So they get like 5 episodes to figure out who the mole is.
The second celebrity season is a little longer though, right? I think the second celebrity season is like closer to a regular season. I think it's 8 episodes instead of 5.
Right. I think you're right. The Rodmeister.
Yeah, the germ.
And it's just, I think that the notes and everything is going to be your main key. Now, I will say that we do want to play this game as selfishly as possible. And that being said, we are going to jump at the chance to win any exemption no matter the cost.
Agreed.
Because once again, no one can vote us out for being bad. People will get upset that we didn't pick money, or that we did something against what the team wanted to do for the money. But their opinions don't matter, because this is a full gameplay game. It's a social game that is all about gameplay and not that much about actually being cordial to each other.
Which is what I think separates this from all the other reality show games. Well, maybe not Amazing Race, because Amazing Race still comes down to your ability to do everything right. But there is some social aspect with like the
Amazing Race comes down to how well you can optimize your airport visits.
Yeah, your airport visits and
taxi drivers.
Taxi drivers, yeah. But also there is like some social aspect in like U-turns and things like that. But usually that's just like the people who are like most ahead of you usually get who. But anyway, it is so different because again, like we're saying, the social game only matters to put you ahead. It's not going to detract from you making it further in the game.
Right. So take every chance you can to go for the exemptions. And honestly, because it's in almost every season, if there is something fragile that can be broken that should not be broken in order to win, break it. I swear to God, just break it. I promise you. You will win an exemption.
Mm-hmm.
In one season, there's a Travelocity gnome that has to be carried.
Break.
I think somebody actually just trips and breaks it on accident.
Yeah.
And finds the exemption ticket inside of it.
Season 5, everyone has to go find a bunch of little ceramic pigs.
Porcelain pigs, yeah.
And then, but they hey, guess what? John's nice. They get to start with the pig.
Right.
But wait a minute. There's something in that pig. What could it be?
Yep. There was something in one of the pigs. One of the people realized there was something inside of it and just decided, hey, I'm going to smash this.
Because they always tell you when the exemption's up for grabs.
Or they don't, because the exemption is some stupid vote. Well,
okay, that one, yes, but usually in like the hidden one, where like the exemption is hidden, they will tell you it's there.
You're right. There's going to be a hidden exemption somewhere, and you can find it and deviate from path to get it.
Because again, this game wants to just bone you over so much that they will just, hey, it's less money they have to pay out, right? So they're going to put everything in your way to make you not want to earn as much money as possible. To not only...
There's the amazing, amazing episode in Season 5 in which the challenge is a race, and they all vote who could lose a race. And they vote Craig.
Yeah.
He's a bigger guy, and they vote him as least likely to win a race. So then they're like, okay, here's what's going to happen. It's like, for every person who beats Craig to the finish line, there's going to be money in the pot. But if Craig can beat at least 2 people...
No, it's not that. It's literally... I'm pretty sure the challenge is just, hey, can you get to the finish line before this time runs out or Craig wins?
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Well, I don't really know because they don't end up playing it because the kicker is that Craig gets to assign how you have to run the race with various vehicles and stuff like that. And there's things like a car and a bike and like some very reasonable things. Like
stilts and a unicycle.
Right.
Or a llama costume that we're going to put the 2 people that want to murder each other inside.
Yep. Or a full-on plate mail set.
Yeah.
And so Craig does what anyone should do in this situation where they want the exemption, which is put everybody in the literal worst possible vehicle to get to the end.
For them.
It goes even better than that. Because not only does nobody make it, nobody even tries.
Because they show him and John at the halfway point waiting because they're going to offer a way to like get there.
Right.
In exchange for losing money from the pot. But no one shows up because John and Craig leave. And then no one just decides to do the challenge.
They all decide to just sit out.
They then get in other vans and just go back to the hotel.
Yep. Also, that's another stupid one. They let the contestants drive themselves around.
Yeah.
In, like, vans, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is another stupid thing to note, because in Season 5, twice the question comes up, did the mole drive the van today?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, like, just like, well, gee, did they? You know, like... That's just such a random thing. This is, once again, why you need to be focusing so much.
Because when they started driving, they were always like, the 2 guys were like, yeah, we're going to drive. But you don't know if they kept driving throughout the day.
Right. So ultimately, I think if you were playing this game, the big thing is to stay calm and make all your notes. Try to sabotage the challenges for small money when you can to throw the trail off the mole. Utilize and leverage the one fact that you have, which is you are not the mole, as far as you can take it. Look for somebody very trustworthy and friendly who's trying to blend in. That's the mole. It does not take a lot to sabotage these challenges. These challenges are complicated enough that any tiny kink will sabotage these.
Mm-hmm.
And the mole can often just sabotage them by literally doing nothing. I think those are the biggest, and of course, once again, notate everything for the test. All we care about is exemptions and tests.
Yeah, so again, there's, you don't have to go do CrossFit, you don't have to go lift weights, you don't have to get in shape for this. I mean, obviously, don't die out there.
Right.
Because they are still physically taxing events in some cases.
Right.
But this is just like, pull up pictures on the internet, stare at them for like 20 minutes, walk away, do something for like an hour, come back. How much of that image do you remember?
Yep. It's big about memory. Luckily, you get to take notes down too.
But you have to be able to make it back to when you have your journal again. They don't take their journals with them to the challenges.
Yep, that's true.
You could spend all day out in Santiago, Chile doing whatever, so that by the time it's like 8 o'clock at night, you're ready for bed, you're tired after a long day, you have to remember the key details.
Right. And also remember, just because somebody wins a challenge or does well, does not eliminate them from being the mole. The mole is going to win some challenges.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to put money in the pot to take the trail off of themselves. They're trying to blend in more than anything. They're trying to make you lose money. That's just going to happen naturally from everybody's paranoia. So don't be fooled by this. Another big thing I think about this is, once again, if you don't have information, your instinct, when dealing with something where you don't have the information, is to panic, or at least get tense or stressed. The mole's not going to be like that because they have all the information. People who are worried about the quiz, they look visibly tense, right? They're worried when their name comes up on the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Watching for things like that, everybody's going to go, oh, I'm nervous about this test, right?
Sure.
But like the people who are like actually clueless at the beginning are going to look absolutely clueless. And if you play enough Avalon and Resistance, these are the games that I think are very big for a game like The Mole, right? Because this is what you're literally doing. Coup, less so. Coup is about lying a bunch.
Sure.
But Avalon and Resistance is specifically about trying to take your nothing information and figure out who has information. It's, of course, the game where you are either a spy or not a spy,
mm-hmm.
and you're trying to, of course, go on the quests and pass them, but the spies can fail the quests. It's essentially this, but on a much bigger scale and a lot more details about pants.
Yes.
Real quick, let's run down how to be a good mole.
The strategy we just said as the player?
Reverse it.
Yeah.
Be nice, blend in. You can easily, as the mole, you'll be told things to do during the challenges that you'll have to do. It's your job. You are already getting paid. So sometimes you're told, like, just look like you know how to operate something.
Mm.
I think in one of the celebrity ones, it was like, tell everyone you know how to surf was the challenge.
Yeah. Because
they had to pick 2 people to go and try to surf. And you needed to convince everyone that you deserve to be on that team. Yeah.
Is it season 1 or season 2 where, again, that before the final quiz where you get the option of extra money of the dossier, the mole was told, hey, when you won, take your dossier. But the mole already knew that everyone else knew that it was them. So they were just like, I'm just going to take the money.
What a rogue.
Yeah.
What a rogue.
Just to, like, attempt to throw off less suspicion.
I'm just saying at the end,
mm-hmm.
when it's down to the 3, it's pretty obvious who the mole is at that point. It honestly, in the final 3, the game has sort of been done. It is just better notes at that point. It's not going to come to time. You both know who the mole is, and what you're going to get got by in the end is going to be answering the, like, super detailed questions from the first episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, final scores, because they give final scores, right?
Yeah.
Like, winning scores are like 15 out of 20, 14 out of 20. Like, second place runner-up scores are like 8 out of 20, 9 out of 20. Like, the quiz at the end is hard.
Season 5 was 17 versus 13.
17 versus 13. 17 is the most I've seen right.
Yeah.
And that was from the man who was literally in love with his journal.
Yes. But again, he lost it halfway through as well.
But if you wrote down that journal, you probably remember some of it, right?
Yeah.
Being the mole, if you are the mole, you get to have a lot of fun. Make friends. Get into alliances.
Because again, because it isn't a social vote out game. When you're the mole, you're playing the game knowing you're going to be there the entire time.
You need to act like you are worried every time, though.
Mm-hmm,
you need to be. That's why it's like, start alliances, start witch hunts. You know, get people like talking about
good old McCarthyism.
It's true. Like, I've seen like you need to be the one. Like, I mean, you're gonna throw little things here and there, but everybody's gonna mess up at some point, and everybody's gonna hyper focus on every mistake everybody makes. So, like, don't worry about people being on to you because, like, oh, you dropped something that was important, right?
Well, I was going to say, I think one of the good things that I think when there are physical challenges, right? I think you have to kind of be careful. You can't do it too often, but every now and then you get in a team with someone who is going to be bad at the challenge.
Right.
That way you can do a little extra sabotage stuff and then just be like, I mean, look at them.
Right.
You can't do it. You can't do it every time though, because then it's going to look even more suspicious that you're always in the bottom performing team. But you can definitely gauge and get away with a little more here and there, and can also throw suspicion off on yourself.
Anytime you're not told specifically not to win. Yeah. Like, it makes it like so much better, and definitely go for the whatchamacallits, the immunities. Go for them, but don't win them.
Yeah.
Because the big thing here with the immunities for you as the mole is that if somebody wins an immunity who is not on to you as the mole, they get to go and be wrong on the quiz again. And it means that the people that are on to you, so let's say like we get down to a like final 5 scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a final 4 scenario. And 2 people know you're the mole, you are the mole, and then the last person doesn't know you're the mole. And you decide that you're going to get into it about the exemption ticket, but you're just going to, at the very end, throw the exemption ticket to make sure the guy who has no clue that you're the mole makes it to the next episode.
Yeah.
That means the 2 people who know you're the mole are going to fight it out on the quiz, and one of them has to go home. Like, exemptions you don't want as the mole, because you're going to be there next week no matter what. Your test is going to show up green, always. However, if you can make sure one of the more clueless players can sneak into the next week, that means one of the brighter players is going to go home.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the exemptions are important to point out, and they're important to look like you are trying to get them.
Here's the thing we forgot to sort of bring up when talking about forming coalitions.
Right.
Do you use your coalition buddies as guinea pigs in the quiz?
Yes. If you can.
Like say you're like 75 on a person, but you're also like 25 on a person. You go with your 75 and you're just like, I don't know, I think X person has a good chance of being it, right? And then if they get voted out, well, sorry, but now you know.
Right. That happens at some point where like, but except it was different. Both people in the coalition thought that it was this one person. And they were like, let's just go 100% at that person on the quiz. And then one of them got kicked out.
Yeah.
Through a tie. And he's just like, well, not her.
Yeah. I
think the bullet, buddy.
I think that was the final 4 of season 5.
That was the final like 5 or 6 of season 5.
Final 5. I think you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, that guy in season 5, I think it's where the mole definitely realized that 2 people were onto him and one person was not, and he throws the immunity to that guy.
Yeah.
And then I think he also throws the dossier at him too.
Yeah.
Lets him win it. So that way that guy can win. But anyways, that's deep. That's deep. Yeah. If there's a guy who's like, I'm playing for my kids and you're the mole, you need to make sure that he wins. But don't go up to him and go, hey, I'm the mole, because he will not believe you. He is probably too dense for it. Or too paranoid.
I don't know, like too paranoid, because I was going to say, that guy was actually like really smart about that stuff.
No, for sure. He kept the best notes.
Yeah. But yeah. Or they're lying. You'd think that those kids aren't real.
Oh, man. Yeah. The ultimate lie.
Layers on layers on layers. This show is going to ruin you.
Wouldn't that been some ish if the guy who kept talking about his kids and stuff like that was the mole the whole time?
Oh.
This show needs more seasons so we can have things like that happen.
I'm telling you. So I when I was looking up just like how many seasons like that there were, I believe I saw a thing. I forget what it's called. There is a show that was casting this year to film in Australia that I believe is either a spiritual successor or a revival of like the mole concept.
We can only hope. But also one more clue: do not read too deep into numerology ever. People will go nuts. It's a very paranoia-inducing show.
But Ricky, what if I told you that at dinner, right?
Right.
There are 5 pieces of food on our plate.
Right.
And you know we were wearing jerseys when we played soccer, right?
Right.
But do you know who's wearing jersey number 5?
Who?
Steve. Steve's the mole.
Oh, how many letters are in Steve's name?
4. Dan, it's not him. No, it is 5. It's 5 still. Oh, no. It's definitely Steve.
5? That's Number Wang.
That's Number Wang.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this. We'll wrap this up here with that bad Number Wang joke and me saying, do I think I could win the mole? Yes. I think I could. I think this show is pretty high up my alley. I think I could do pretty well on it. I know, once again, I'm sitting in an AC room at a computer screen watching in like 200 pixels because this is an old show. Watch it on YouTube because, again, the show's really good, but get ready to only watch it in 380p or 360p. Right.
It's good to watch on a phone, though. I was watching a bunch on my phone.
I will say, I think I could do it. I don't think it would be easy. I think it'd, of course, be a little bit harder, but I think with the strategies I've got here, I'm good at note-taking. I love playing social deduction games. I think I could figure it out. I think I could do it.
Okay.
How about you?
Do I get to be the mole?
No.
I don't want to be on the show.
Okay, very fair. This is a good take also. I will say this show is easier than Carmen Sandiego to win.
That's true.
I still think if we were to tier list the shows that we've done so far, because I'm thinking in tier lists now, I think that definitely Carmen Sandiego and Legends of the Hidden Temple, the 2 games for children, are the hardest games to win of all the games we've covered. Like Deal or No Deal is up there as well because technically it's a lucky draw.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, if you redefine winning, then that game's pretty easy to win, actually.
Yeah. Did you walk out with more money than you walked in with?
Listen to the Carmen Sandiego one and find out why you just are a failure of a child and you'd never be good enough to be on Carmen Sandiego, you fool.
And why you're really happy that they made the show less mean after season 1.
Oh my god. Why is the show so mean in season 1?
Because they didn't
Why are you called a failure all the time?
Because it was the 90s.
Dude, okay. Carmen Sandiego was rough. This show is way better than this show is way easier than Carmen Sandiego. Yeah. It's probably a little better too. But no, like I would love to be on this game because even if like I didn't win, I think this is a fun game this is a good game just to like have fun with. I agree. This is a lot of fun. And I've had a lot of fun talking about it with you today and discussing optimal strategy in our favorite games that nobody's ever heard of. But now they have. But now they have. So go out there and meta those game shows and meet a game show host while you're out there. For me, take my picture and put it next to the game show host and post it in my Discord. Leave a comment, like, subscribe to Door Monster Podcast for more stupid stuff like this, and we will see you next time. Bye!
Bye!